around him. And it's, you know, it's not that he was throwing fits and kicking over C-stands and, you know, throwing boxes around or anything.
And so I'm living that dream, and it's wonderful.
For over 5 decades, Ron Howard has been Hollywood's calmest storm. No scandals, no explosions, just quiet control. The red-headed kid from the Andy Griffith Show who grew up to become the director everyone trusted. The man who made chaos look easy. But here's the truth nobody talks about. Even the nicest man in Hollywood has a breaking point. Because behind that gentle smile and soft-spoken patience lies a lifetime of silent battles. 7 actors who tested him so deeply he never forgot. One was his childhood hero who turned cold when the camera stopped. Another was a co-star whose fame eclipsed his own. Then came the method legends, unpredictable, brilliant, and impossible to control. Each encounter chipped away at the calm exterior that made Ron Howard a Hollywood myth. He never screamed. He never stormed off set. He just learned and remembered. And tonight, we're opening that quiet list, the untold stories of the actors who pushed Ron Howard to his limits, and the moments that nearly broke Hollywood's most patient director. Before Ron Howard became one of Hollywood's most respected directors, he was America's favorite kid. At just 6 years old, he stepped onto the set of The Andy Griffith Show, wide-eyed, curious, and unaware that the lessons he'd learned there would shape his entire future. To the world, the show was a picture of small-town perfection, laughter, family values, and the fatherly warmth of Sheriff Andy Taylor. But behind that wholesome charm, things weren't always so gentle. In the beginning, Andy Griffith was everything a young actor could hope for in a mentor. He treated Ron not as a child prop, but as a real partner. Howard once said, "Andy made me feel like I belonged. He treated me like an actor, not a kid." For a while, that relationship defined his early career. The chemistry between them was real, at least on camera. But as the seasons went on, the pressure of leading one of television's most beloved shows began to weigh on Griffith. His temper, once hidden behind charm, started to slip through. Crew members described him as controlling and short-tempered when things didn't go his way. Frances Bavier, who played Aunt Bee, openly disliked him. Don Knotts, his best friend on screen, admitted he sometimes feared him off it. And in the middle of it all was Ron, the child actor who learned to read a room before he could read a script. He noticed the shifts, the way tension lingered after a bad take, or how one disagreement could change the entire mood. By the later seasons, he began asking questions about his character and the show's direction, but instead of encouragement, he was met with resistance. Griffith, once his patient mentor, didn't like being challenged, even by his fictional son. When the series ended, the bond between them quietly dissolved. They never worked together again and barely spoke after the show. When Griffith passed in 2012, Howard's tribute was brief, respectful, but restrained. That chapter taught him an early Hollywood truth. Kindness on screen doesn't always mean kindness off it. From then on, Howard built his sets around consistency and mutual respect because he'd seen what happens when leadership turns into control. But Andy Griffith was only the beginning. Ron's calm leadership would soon be tested again, this time not by a mentor, but by a friend who stole the spotlight and never gave it back.
I don't know if he ever studied acting anywhere or not, but he really built his own sense, his own aesthetic.
By the 1970s, Ron Howard had outgrown his child star image and found himself back on television in Happy Days, playing Richie Cunningham, the clean-cut, all-American boy who was meant to be the show's anchor. But as soon as the camera started rolling, a different kind of star began to rise. Henry Winkler, cast as Arthur Fonzie Fonzarelli, was supposed to be a side character, the cool rebel in the leather jacket, but audiences didn't just like him, they worshipped him. Within a year, Happy Days wasn't about Richie anymore. It was about the Fonz. Scripts shifted, posters changed, and storylines that once revolved around Richie now centered on Fonzie. The cheers grew louder, and slowly, Howard found himself fading from the spotlight on his own show. To his credit, he never lashed out publicly. He stayed professional, though those close to the production noticed his quiet frustration. Happy Days had been sold as Richie Cunningham's story, and now it was clear he was no longer the star. In later interviews, Howard spoke carefully about that time, never blaming Winkler personally, but acknowledging the shift. When a character becomes that iconic, everything changes, he said. You just have to adjust. But adjusting didn't make it easier. It was a reminder that fame is unpredictable. One breakout role can rewrite everything overnight. That experience, however, shaped Howard into the kind of leader he'd later become. He learned how fragile balance could be and how quickly popularity could breed tension. The kid who once watched his mentor's temper on The Andy Griffith Show had now seen how fame could quietly take control of an entire production. But fame and envy were only part of the challenge. Years later, Ron Howard would face a very different kind of problem, not with egos, but with chaos itself, the kind that could derail an entire film overnight.
He was an entertainer first. He was a monologuist, and he was a singer, and he never was really a stand-up comedian per se. He was a humorist.
By the mid-1990s, Ron Howard's career as a director was thriving. He'd earned a reputation for professionalism, calm leadership, and the ability to turn massive productions into well-oiled machines. But in 1996, while filming Ransom, Howard faced a challenge unlike anything he'd dealt with before. An actor whose raw talent was matched only by his volatility, Tom Sizemore. On paper, Sizemore was perfect for the role. His gritty realism, intense presence, and sharp instincts brought depth to every scene. But off-camera, he was unpredictable, the kind of actor whose energy could either elevate a film or destroy its rhythm entirely. By the time Ransom went into production, Sizemore's reputation preceded him. Late arrivals, erratic behavior, and sudden mood swings became part of the daily routine. Howard, known for his composure, tried to adapt. But chaos has a way of spreading. Crew members recalled how entire shooting days would shift around Sizemore's instability. He'd arrive on set disoriented, derail scenes with unplanned outbursts, or vanish between takes. What should have been a smooth, fast-paced thriller began to feel like a balancing act, one man's professionalism against another's unpredictability. In one tense moment, things reached a breaking point. Sizemore's behavior reportedly grew so disruptive that Howard halted production altogether. There were no shouting matches or dramatic confrontations, just the quiet authority of a director determined to protect his set. It was one of the few times Howard had to draw a line, and he did it without raising his voice. Years later, he reflected on the experience with careful restraint. There were days I had to recalibrate everything around one person's unpredictability. That's not how I like to work. It breaks trust and throws off rhythm. For Howard, Ransom became more than just a film. It was a test of patience, leadership, and control. The experience reinforced what he had already learned as a young actor. Respect and discipline mattered more than talent alone. And when Sizemore passed away in 2023, Howard offered no public statement, no tribute, no reflection. Sometimes silence says more than words ever could. That storm eventually passed, but another was on the horizon, one that would test Howard's composure in a completely different way. Not chaos this time, but control, the kind that left no room for anyone else's voice. After the chaos of Tom Sizemore, Ron Howard faced a different challenge, one that didn't explode, but quietly drained his patience. It came early in his directing career, during his first major studio film, Night Shift, 1982. The movie was supposed to be his big break, a quirky comedy starring Henry Winkler and a young Michael Keaton. But one actress on set, Shelley Long, would turn that milestone into one of his toughest lessons.
First and foremost, and to this day, if you get him up in front of an audience, he's pretty entertaining.
At the time, Long was on the rise, sharp, talented, and famously prepared. Her precision made her a standout performer, but it also made her difficult to direct. She preferred structure and control, while Howard encouraged spontaneity and discovery. To her, perfection meant preparation. To him, it meant collaboration. Crew members later recalled how the tension grew. Long questioned rewrites, challenged blocking, and pushed back on nearly every adjustment. What should have been a light-hearted comedy became a quiet tug-of-war between two creative minds. For a young director trying to prove himself, it was exhausting. Howard never lost his composure, but his frustration was clear. The breaking point came when Long delayed a major scene, insisting on last-minute script changes. Howard simply worked around her, determined to finish without confrontation. Years later, Long defended her style. "I come prepared." Some directors mistake questions for challenges. Howard responded with his usual diplomacy. Some actors come to set with their minds made up. It makes discovery difficult. Neither said more, and neither worked with the other again. That experience shaped Howard's philosophy forever. He realized great filmmaking wasn't about control, it was about trust. Shelley Long taught him that too much precision could kill creativity, and that harmony mattered more than ego. But while her perfection tested his patience, the next star would test his composure in a way no one ever had. A brilliant, volatile actor whose intensity could either win Oscars or tear a set apart. By the early 2000s, Ron Howard had established himself as one of Hollywood's most reliable directors, calm under pressure, respected by everyone, and known for bringing out the best in his actors. So when he cast Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind, it looked like a perfect pairing, the patient craftsman and the fiery genius. On paper, they were destined to create something remarkable. In reality, it became one of Howard's most demanding experiences behind the camera. Russell Crowe is known for his intensity, a performer who dives so deeply into character that he becomes almost unrecognizable. As John Nash, he delivered one of the most hauntingly authentic performances of his career. But that brilliance came with a cost. Crowe questioned everything, from camera angles to dialogue to the emotional motivation behind every line. What was supposed to be collaboration often turned into confrontation. Howard's directing style was built on trust and calm discussion. Crowe, on the other hand, thrived on tension. He believed great art came from friction. That comfort dulled authenticity. One assistant director recalled, "Russell treated every scene like a battlefield. Ron had to manage his fire just to keep the production moving." Howard never snapped. He guided, adjusted, and adapted, even when the process felt like walking a tightrope. In one interview, he admitted, "With some actors, you guide the scene. With Russell, you just hold on tight and hope for the best." The result was extraordinary. A Beautiful Mind swept the Oscars, winning Best Picture and Best Director. But behind the praise was exhaustion. When asked years later about working with Crowe again, Howard's answer was diplomatic but firm. Some collaborations are meant to happen only once. It was his way of saying that genius, no matter how brilliant, isn't always worth the emotional toll it takes. Crowe later reflected on the experience in his own blunt way. "Ron's a thoughtful director, but sometimes he wants everything too clean, too safe. Real art isn't safe for him. Friction was a tool. For Howard, it was chaos disguised as creativity." Their partnership produced a masterpiece. But it also revealed the thin line between passion and disorder, a line Howard would never cross again. And if Crowe's intensity was a storm, the next legend he faced was the hurricane that nearly tore everything apart.
He was really the rock on which the show was built in every way.
The entire time that I was under contract and doing Happy Days, my dream was to be a filmmaker.
For most directors, working with Marlon Brando would be a dream. The man was cinema royalty, the face of The Godfather, the fire behind A Streetcar Named Desire, and the original Hollywood rebel. But for Ron Howard, that dream turned into a nightmare that would permanently change how he handled powerful stars. The project, a prestige drama about an aging patriarch, seemed like everything Howard stood for: emotional depth and character-driven storytelling. Having Brando attached made it an instant studio favorite. But the moment filming began, chaos replaced excitement. Brando arrived unprepared, refused to memorize his lines, and demanded cue cards be placed around the set. He showed up late, vanished mid-shoot, and rewrote dialogue on a whim. Crew members described the set as walking on eggshells. One recalled, "When Brando was happy, the day flowed. When he wasn't, nothing got done." Howard tried every approach: reasoning, patience, compromise. But Brando cared more about control than collaboration. In one scene, he stopped filming repeatedly, insisting the character needed a new emotional purpose, then disappeared for hours. When he returned, he announced he'd rewritten his entire role and expected everyone to adjust. For Howard, it was a masterclass in restraint. He didn't shout or argue, but the production fell apart under the weight of Brando's ego. After weeks of chaos, the project collapsed. Howard never criticized him publicly, later saying only, "Some legends earn their reputation through their work. others through their behavior. That experience hardened his resolve. He realized no amount of fame or talent was worth sacrificing discipline and respect. Brando's behavior proved that even genius can become destructive when unchecked. From then on, Howard vowed never to let celebrity outweigh collaboration, no matter how big the name. But just when he thought he'd seen every kind of chaos, another battle was waiting. This time, not with a fading legend, but with a megastar at the height of his power. By the mid-1990s, Ron Howard was one of the most respected directors in Hollywood, the calm center of any production. So when he teamed up with Mel Gibson for Ransom, the project seemed like a dream. Gibson had just won 2 Oscars for Braveheart and was one of the most powerful stars in the world. On paper, the pairing looked perfect. 2 professionals, both disciplined and focused. But on set, that balance quickly collapsed. Gibson's reputation for intensity was well known. He wasn't just an actor, he was a force of nature. His creative instincts were sharp, but his dominance was overwhelming. Almost immediately, Howard found himself directing alongside someone who didn't want to be directed at all. Gibson questioned scripts, camera angles, even how certain scenes should be blocked. One crew member said, Mel had an opinion about everything, and when Mel had an opinion, that was the version that got heard. Howard tried to adapt, as he always did, keeping the atmosphere professional, but tension grew with every shoot. Scenes that should have taken hours stretched into days. Every creative choice turned into a quiet tug-of-war. Gibson's power versus Howard's patience. Though Gibson never disrespected him outright, the dynamic was clear. 2 directors on one set, one of them uninvited. Despite the behind-the-scenes struggle, Ransom became a critical and commercial success. Gibson's performance was electrifying, and Howard's steady hand kept the chaos from showing. But privately, those close to the production said it was one of the most draining experiences of his career. For a man who valued order, it was like steering a ship through a hurricane and doing it with a co-captain constantly grabbing the wheel. Howard never spoke negatively about Gibson, but he didn't work with him again. Instead, he let the results speak for themselves. Ransom was proof that even in the middle of tension, professionalism can win. But it also reinforced what he had learned from every difficult collaboration before. Calm leadership isn't about control. It's about knowing when to let go and when to quietly take it back. After decades in the industry, Ron Howard had learned that kindness doesn't mean weakness, and patience isn't the same as tolerance. Behind that warm smile and reputation for calm was a man who knew exactly where his limits were. And when they were crossed, even Hollywood's nicest director didn't hesitate to draw the line. Across 5 decades, Ron Howard has directed some of the most beloved films of our time: Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind, Cinderella Man, Rush. And through every production, every clash, and every moment of quiet frustration, one truth has followed him: even the calmest man in Hollywood has limits. From Andy Griffith's temper to Shelley Long's control. From Russell Crowe's fire to Brando's chaos and Gibson's dominance, each experience left its mark. They weren't just stories of conflict, they were lessons in leadership. Howard never yelled, never threw things, never humiliated anyone. He didn't need to. His silence carried more weight than any outburst ever could. What makes Ron Howard remarkable isn't how patient he is, it's what his patience protects. It protects creativity, collaboration, and respect. He built his career not on ego, but on steadiness. He understood that the greatest directors don't control chaos by matching its volume. They outlast it. So when people call him Hollywood's nicest director, they're only half right, because behind that calm exterior is a man who has seen the best and worst of human behavior and chose to rise above it every time. And maybe that's the real secret behind his success. Not talent, not luck, but composure. The rare ability to stay grounded when everyone else loses control. Because in Hollywood, storms never stop coming, but Ron Howard never lets them take the wheel. What do you think? Did these actors push him too far, or was Ron Howard's calmness the only thing keeping those films from falling apart? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories, hidden rivalries, and behind-the-scenes truths that Hollywood never wants you to hear.